Okay, guys, the reason I keep going live on these is there's so much crap floating in the sewer coming out of Washington's District of Criminals and fake stream media. I don't even have time to edit videos. So I'm going to give this stuff to you as it's the criminals and fake stream as it comes down the pipeline to me. First of all, let's give me a 5x5 if audio and video is good before I start going. The manipulated Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 1,049 points today. That's called a head fake in the bear market to keep you holding on and hoping that it's going to go up. 5x5, good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Let me refresh this right here. And as I was getting ready here, I was reading some of the comments, and Psy Operator made a really salient point. And it's kind of one of those you miss the forest for the trees kind of things. Take a look at, let me get over here. Take a look at this picture right here. You got a group of government psychopaths telling us not to gather in groups as they're gathered, and their group telling us not to gather in groups. It's completely hypocritical. Like Psy Operator pointed out, if it was really that dangerous, if it was really that deadly, if they were really that concerned, do you think they would go out of their houses or away from their safe spaces to subject themselves to all these germs out there and potentially get the C virus? It's utter hypocrisy, and you can expect that from lamestream media and from government sources. So let's get into this. I got so many windows open. It's hard to determine where to start. All right. What I'm about to play for you right here is not a movie. All right. This is actually happening all across the country. Thanks to Jonathan in New Orleans for sending me this. Maybe you guys have already seen this. This is the first time I've seen this today, but it's almost like you have to rub your eyes and go, is this really happening in America? Like, I could see this happening maybe in Mexico or some other third world country, but is this a movie set? Check this out. Listen to what the cops say here.
Ladies and gentlemen, by the order of the governor and the mayor, large groups of people are prohibited from congregating together. Your actions are jeopardizing public health.
Your actions are jeopardizing public health. That's how they're painting this out. If you gather together in large groups, if you ignore the rules of the government overlords, then you are jeopardizing public health, and you don't care about your fellow Americans, and you are guilty of criminal activity in their minds. That's what's going on here.
We're directing you to clear the streets and go home or back to your hotel. Thank you for your cooperation.
Go home or back to your hotel. What if they don't? Well, then if they're overpowered, then they call in reinforcements. They call in the National Guard. They call in the military. And then they start clearing the streets. And then what you have is the martial law that we've all been talking about all along. Let me just go back to the chat room and make sure everything's good. Yeah, who is Marshall, says Grandma Bones. This is extremely concerning. And you could sit there and say, Brian, you're just doing nothing but a bunch of fear mongering. Guys, this is something to be extremely concerned about. And I'm not sitting here telling you that the C virus is a psychological operation meant to instill fear and panic in the masses. I am not saying, YouTube, that this is potentially a false flag for further government overreach. I'm not declaring, YouTube or Twitter or whoever, that this is possibly a hoax. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying this is part of the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. They create a problem, wait for the fear-based public reaction of fear. When you're acting in fear, you're not acting rationally. And no, they're not going to slip in a pre-planned solution. They're not, because they've never done that before, right? We can look through the annals of history, and governments always take care of their people. They never try to situate them or position them in a situation where they have to depend on the government or be fearful or be in panic mode or act irrationally, right? Now, I'm not saying any of that at all. Take away from this what you will, but I will say this. There are two investigative techniques and questions that always come into play. Number one, and it's so basic, guys, I'm going to keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. Follow the money. And number two, who benefits? I'll even add a bonus number 3 to that. To whom is it a detriment when you follow the money and find out who benefits? Who is not benefiting? Who's getting the short end of the stick? Who's getting screwed? It all comes down to this, guys. By the way, it's not follow the money, it's follow the fiat currency. The money and power is being transferred from your pocket, from the people, to the politicians and their government overlords. That's what this is all about. And that's what I talked with the amazing Lucas last night about on that podcast. If somebody can pull that up, it's the last video of Amazing Lucas. If one of my admins can go to the Amazing Lucas channel and grab that link off there, if you guys missed it, it's actually, it's worth a watch. Okay, now pay close attention. This is Dr. She's an expert. Deborah Birx. You can't question her. You can't question her authority, especially her medical/government authority as she stands next to the president and the vice president of the United States while they're in their group telling you not to form in groups. Listen to what she says. She's the White House coronavirus response coordinator. Listen closely to her words. I'm going to play 6 segments here, and we're going to talk about it just briefly. I'm going to try to go through this really quick.
I think that point about sustainability and quality is very important because, as the president says, we're creating a roadmap for a different level of functionality for future pandemics.
Did you hear that? What are we doing? We're creating a roadmap for a different level of functionality for future pandemics. What is that saying? We're creating a roadmap for a different level of functionality for future pandemics. What's the roadmap they're creating right here? Medical martial law. Call in the National Guard. Declare quarantines. Put us all on lockdown. That's what's happening. Shut down restaurants. Shut down bars. Shut down schools. Stay in your houses 65 and up. You're going to see great measures of hypocrisy here. And what they're unfolding here is literally, and you guys don't hear me say this often, you don't hear me allude to Illuminati or the New World Order, but this is literal New World Order globalism on a national scale. This is going beyond the bounds of Washington's District of Criminals. This is going beyond state bounds. And we'll talk about this, the 10th Amendment here in a second, because all that comes into play. If we listen very closely, get out of the cult of personality. Get away from your cognitive dissonance in following Donald Trump. Treat this as truth fears no scrutiny. I just want to know the truth. I want to put on the lenses of liberty, and I want to look at everything through the eyes of logic and truth and objective morality. What are these people really saying? What plan are they trying to foist, not only on the American people, because I'm telling you guys, if America falls, everybody falls. We are the first domino. If they push us over, if we give away our sovereignty, if we give away our rights, and I'm going to say Benjamin Franklin's quote again, if you give away a little essential liberty to obtain a little politically promised security, you deserve neither liberty nor security. Do not give away your rights. Don't give it away for a politician. Don't give it away for a pundit. Don't give it away for a lawyer. Don't give it away because you were deceived by mainstream media. And don't give it away because you're panicked by the so-called coronavirus. I'm going to show you a bunch of hypocritical things that this lady says during this conference that we can just objectively call BS on. So get out of the cult of personality, wipe the cognitive dissonance cobwebs out of your mind, and just filter everything through the bedrock of truth.
Our flu pandemic preparedness plan was a plan. Now we're seeing where we have to revise, where we have to create new avenues of research, new avenues of work to really ensure that the need of the American people can be reached.
These are all euphemisms. The need of the people. Back to William Pitt the Younger. Necessity or need. Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedoms. It's the argument of tyrants. It's the creed of slaves. Daniel Webster. Good intentions will always be pleaded for every infringement of authority. They're going to cover it with, we want to protect the American people. Oh yeah, what's the trade-off? You have to give us more of your rights. Give us more of your rights and we'll give you more safety. Rights for safety. Rights for safety. That is always the game. And they will employ the Hegelian dialectic. Am I saying they are? No, you have to come to that conclusion yourself, YouTube. I'm not making any assertions right here. I'm just going over possibilities. Am I saying they're employing psychological operations? No. Am I saying this is a hoax? No. Am I saying this is a false flag? No, but it sure does look like a duck. It sure is quacking like a duck. It sure is waddling like a duck. So maybe, there's probably a really good possibility that it's a duck. What do you guys think? So they're increasing the functionality of what? She said a lot of euphemisms there, but the bottom line is more government overreach, more tyranny, more tightening regulations, imposing curfews, quarantining people, locking people down. Here we go.
We were adamant about having a high-quality test based on our commercial vendors.
A high-quality test based on what? Based on the safety of the American people? She's actually letting things slip out. Based on our high-quality vendors. Listen to this again. It's based on their vendors. What? Like the biotech companies? Like Big Pharma? What are we talking about here?
Based on our commercial vendors.
Here, let's see.
About having a high-quality test based on our commercial vendors.
Based on our commercial vendors. In view for the federal government are the commercial vendors. And we are talking about the big pharma corporations and the biotech firms who are capitalizing even in this down market. And I'm going to do a video that's going to blow your mind. It's going to be about a 3 or 4 minute video, but I just want to expose what JP Morgan's been involved in and what kind of stocks they're buying. Let me give you a hint. Might be something regarding biotechs and big pharma. Might have something to do and be linked with that word that we can't talk about that starts with a V, and it comes out of the end of a needle, and there's all this kind of poisonous fluid that goes into people's veins.
Over the next few months, you will begin to see that other tests that were utilized around the world were not of the same quality, resulting in false positives and potentially false negatives. These tests were studied by the FDA to really ensure that
the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, which is responsible for killing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of American lives by letting biotech firms, by letting big pharma let out vaccines. And see, I just said the V word. That's probably going to get my channel flagged. By letting out liquid concoctions that are literally killing people, altering people's lives, giving people autism. Yeah, the FDA is going to save you. When you hear FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, they are the well, okay, I'm not going to keep going because I got to be real careful what I say because censorship is just in full swing. But let's just suffice it to say that the FDA is not in your corner, though they claim to be.
They are that level of quality, and we've given the states the permission to ensure that same level of quality.
Okay, here we go. We, the federal government, have given the states permission to ensure that quality. Check this out. I'm gonna segue over to here, and I'm a little slow on this just because it's kind of a new program to me. Check out, can you see this right here? This is the 10th Amendment. So the federal government says that they're going to give the states permission. Well, they're out of their jurisdiction and they're out of their cotton picking minds. You guys know what I think about the Constitution. I'm going to reiterate what Lysander Spooner said. Whether the Constitution be one thing or another, this much is certain. It's either authorized such a government as we have, that's the tyrannical government that you're seeing just play out right now, or it's been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. One of the items in the Bill of Rights is the 10th Amendment. And the 10th Amendment basically draws a line and says, federal government, you can't go beyond this line. What she just said by granting permission to the states, it's not for the federal government to grant permission to the states. The states individually are supposed to have more power than the federal government in their own quote unquote sovereign jurisdiction. I know this is all word salad and it's all legalese, but what I'm pointing out here is not that the Constitution is anything, but that they're violating their own oath to the Constitution. They've raised their hands. They've taken the oath toward heaven to not violate the Constitution, but rather to protect and defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And they've become the very domestic enemies that they swore to protect us from. So the 10th Amendment reads, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. In other words, not delegated to the federal government. See, the Bill of Rights is a restraint on the federal government and broad freedoms for the people, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. It is not for anybody in the federal government to say that they're going to grant rights to the states. So already, she has revealed a psychological operation. She's revealed that the government is actually placating as lapdogs to Big Pharma and the biotech companies, and they're grossly violating the 10th Amendment. And let me just read this because I found this just because this was part of this search right here. It said the 10th Amendment is similar to the Articles of Confederation, which says, quote, each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence, and every power, jurisdiction, and right in Congress assembled. So basically, each state is its own country. It's its own sovereignty. It's not for Washington's District of Criminals to grant or not grant certain permission to the states. They're going way, way over their bounds. And they're transgressing their own promise to fulfill that oath to the Bill of Rights. So let me go back to this so we can scrutinize our words for the benefit of all. All right, check this out.
Now, I want to just say 1 minute on the testing. Testing should not be used as an assessment of your risk. We are asking every single American, no matter what your generation, from Z and up to X and millennials in between, to really ensure that you're following these guidelines. We hear every night of people who are not in work, moving that time into bars and other areas of large gatherings. If we continue with that process, we will fail in containing this virus.
So the government is saying, if you don't follow our guidelines, then you are responsible for not containing the virus. You're responsible for spreading the virus. You're going to be the one that's responsible for all the deaths because of this virus. They're basically standing up there and virtue signaling you and saying, if you exercise your freedom as an American citizen, you are violating they're calling it guidelines. Guys, this is the frog being boiled slowly in the water. First of all, it's suggestions, then guidelines, and then it's going to be mandates. And you can bet your bottom dollar that they will move and are moving toward those mandates. When you issue lockdowns and you're instituting curfews, like we saw at the beginning of this video right here in Louisiana, it's all she wrote. It's all she wrote, and we cannot give away our freedoms. So there's another violation of individual liberties that they swore to uphold. Let's go on.
So every single generation has a role to play. We're asking our older generation to stay in their homes.
All right, remember that. We're asking our older generations to stay in our homes. I don't know if you saw the last video or the video before last where they had this 53-year-old guy in Kentucky, and they're forcing him at gunpoint. Men with guns are sitting outside of his house, making sure he does not go out and jeopardize lives. Guys, there is no conclusive proof that even if you have coronavirus, I can't even say that. You know where I'm going with that. I'm not going to continue on with that. You know where I'm going. Let's listen to that again.
A role to play. We're asking our older generation to stay in their homes.
Okay, just remember that. Because we're going to come back to this very thing in a second. Here, I'm going to put a marker right here. We're asking the older generation to stay in their homes. Remember that. We're coming back to it.
And we're asking the younger generations to support them in social contacting through videos and other Skype-type functions.
In other words, Older people stay in your homes. Younger people don't visit the older people. I know your relatives, but give them a phone call, Skype them, get a hold of them on an email. But for God's sake, don't go to their homes, and older people stay in your homes. That is the message. And right now, they're just calling it guidelines.
Or just the simple telephone. We're asking the younger generations to stop going out in public places, to bars and restaurants, and spreading asymptomatic virus onto countertops and knobs and grocery stores and grocery carts.
Did you get that? Listen to the gravity of this. Let's just go over it again.
We're asking the younger generations to stop going out in public places, to bars and restaurants, and spreading asymptomatic virus onto countertops and knobs and grocery.
Spreading asymptomatic the viruses onto countertops and doorknobs. You don't even, they're not even saying that you have symptoms. They're saying don't go out. Don't even risk it. Yeah, you may not have it, but you could, and you could be asymptomatically shedding the virus. They're basically saying to all you free younger people, well, you're not free anymore. Stop going to bars. Stop going to restaurants. Stop shedding the virus on grocery carts. She's basically saying don't go to grocery stores. If you're not shedding the virus asymptomatically onto a grocery cart, that means you're not going to a grocery store. They're ratcheting down, guys. They're limiting our freedom slowly, and they're using euphemisms. They're not even coming out and saying it. That's why I always say that quote from Larkin Rose: politics is nothing more, nothing less than the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, which she's using, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering, which it looks like this is. I'm not saying it is, YouTube, to deceive people, to dupe average people into accepting and even demanding the chains of their own enslavement. And we're seeing that in Seattle right now. 4 videos ago, I went over this. In Seattle, they're actually begging the government to shut everything down. Government, please keep us safe. And while you're keeping us safe and keeping us home from work, we want to make sure that you subsidize our 2 weeks off. This is crazy business. This is literally, we're living in a movie scene right now.
I heard an innovation last night and this morning again on the news. I really want to applaud.
By the way, I haven't forgotten about Remember the 65-year-old thing. It's coming up. Stay tuned.
The private sector.
Here it is. I'm sorry I interrupted because I'm just. This is infuriating. Okay, I'm going to play this over. Just listen closely because she's going to talk about something about 16-year-olds. She already said we want you to stay in your house. 65 and up, stay in your house. Listen to this though. What is she going to applaud?
I heard an innovation last night and this morning again on the news. I really want to applaud the private sector who are now creating senior-only shopping times. I think that's extraordinary. I think that shows what America brings. And
Wait a second. You want all seniors to stay at home and not come out. You want all young people who are somehow related to these seniors not to go to their houses, but rather to do phone calls and emails and Skype. But you're applauding the private sector for creating time zones where these people that you said should stay in their house can go shopping in their own block of time. It's utter ridiculous hypocrisy, doublespeak nonsense. And it's all formulated to get us all scared and panicked and stocking up on toilet paper and bathroom supplies and disinfectants and baby wipes. And then eventually clearing the shelves. If you think it's nonsense and if you think it's mayhem and chaos, people fighting over toilet paper, wait till you got that fight for that last can of beans on the shelf or those burritos. Or that bag of cheese.
I think other countries will learn from us about how to really protect seniors in this type of way.
This is nonsense. Seniors, stay in your homes, but hey, we applaud the private sector for carving out a block of time where the seniors can come out of their homes after we told them they have to stay in their homes.
I'm hoping that carries through.
Here's the deal. Here's the bottom line of why I said, what the hell did she just admit? Here's the admission. Listen to this.
To next year when we have our flu epidemic where we can...
I hope this carries through to next year when we have our seasonal flu epidemic. I hope tyranny and quarantines and older people stay in your house and younger people don't contact the older people unless you can do it remotely. I hope all this carries through to our next flu season. They're actually, here, let me just read to you what she said at the beginning of the video. We're creating a roadmap for a different level of functionality for future pandemics. In other words, we're carbon copying this. We're rubber stamping this. This is how we're going to do every single pandemic. Get ready. Every single year, we're just going to shut down America. We're going to lock down cities. We're going to close restaurants. We're going to close bars. We're going to make sure that you can only go shopping at certain times. They want this as a roadmap by their own admission. This is incredible. I'm going to play this over and I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut.
I'm hoping that carries through to next year when we have our flu epidemic, where we can really have a very different profile of the amount of mortality that we have during flu that we never talk about. Anywhere from 15,000 to 45,000 individuals are lost every year.
Did you hear what she just admitted? The flu claims far more lives than this coronavirus, and we didn't lock anybody down. We didn't close any restaurants. We didn't impose any curfews. We didn't have cops driving through saying, you need to go home or back to your hotel rooms because you're jeopardizing public safety. They don't do that for 15 or 20,000 people who already died this year in America alone, let alone the world. Let me show you this, guys. Let me show you this. I got it pulled up right. Oh, let me just show you this real quick. Let's see. Bear with me. Here we go. Remember when I told you a couple months ago? Oops. Not to let this happen to you right here. Don't be the one who's caught in one of these lines right here. You want to have prepared. This is a couple months ago. I said, hey, just you don't want to be caught in the panic of the lemmings. You don't want to be caught in crowds that are irrationally thinking about things and are trying to save their lives and see this as a hyper panic situation. Look at this. Look at this line of carts right here. Look at these people just waiting in line. What happens when there's no food left? Look, they're freaking out about paper towels and toilet paper. I don't see, is there even any food on this cart? It's all cleaning supplies, and you see that en masse all across the country and in Australia and other countries. People are going for cleaning supplies, not food. Wait till the real panic sets in. Wait till the real bubble bursts in the economy and in the stock market, and all bets are off. Wait till there's runs on banks and they're declaring bank holidays and people can't even have a workable debit card or a credit card, and they can't go to the ATM and get any cash out for just regular daily living. Let me show you this right here. This is from the Centers for Disease Control. And I just want to highlight this right here. I'm going to blow it up so you can see it nice and clear based on what she just said about the influenza epidemic. See, they're calling this coronavirus, and I know it sounds stupid when I use the metaphor of going into the doctor's office and having a big gangrenous cancerous tumor hanging off the left side of your face like a basketball and saying, "Doc, I have a very serious situation and I'm having these huge migraines and I feel like I'm on the brink of death. Can you take a look at this?" And he comes in, kind of looks at your face and looks down at your toe and goes, "Oh my God, we need to do something about that little bitty hangnail hanging off of your little toe on your right foot." And you're like, "Doc, no, this is the concern right here. I mean, my God, look at the size of this thing. It's about to break. It's got blood vessels in it and everything, and my life's in jeopardy." It's like, "No, we got to take care of that." I'll tell you what, I'm calling 911 right now, and we're gonna get you stat in the operating room for that toe right there. That toe needs to be looked at. We got to get rid of that hangnail. The hangnail in this case is coronavirus. The big tumor hanging off the side of the face is the influenza virus. The influenza virus has killed, what does this say? 12 to 61,000 deaths annually. Up, according to that lady's stat, it's already up to 20,000 people have died from this big growth off the side of the face, and they're worried about a hangnail, and they want to operate on the hangnail, and they want to clean the emergency room for the hangnail, and they want to get all the tools out for the hangnail, but they're not doing anything. The hangnail is the coronavirus, and this big tumor is the influenza virus. Why aren't they closing down shops? Why aren't they shutting down restaurants and bars for the big tumor hanging off the side of the face, i.e. the influenza virus? Because they're promoting an agenda. They're solidifying your slavery by instituting tyranny. Listen to this. Here's what it says. The burden of the influenza disease in the United States can vary widely and is determined by a number of factors, including the characteristics of circulating viruses, the timing of the season, how well the vaccine is working to protect against illness. That's BS. You know why? Because during every flu season, when does the flu spark up? During and after the injections begin, not before. Maybe, and I'm just hypothesizing here, there's no assertions, maybe the influenza virus is being propagated by the very industries who are propped up and profiting from the influenza virus. Maybe the influenza virus is actually given to individuals by pharmaceutical companies. Maybe the 34 to 48 million people who get the influenza shot every year are the very ones who are propagating the disease so that Big Pharma can profit, handsomely profit every single year. So she talked about the influenza season coming up every year. It's all predictable. You'll see Gary Fauci say this in a second. While the impact of the flu varies, it places a substantial burden, the flu places a substantial burden on the health of people in the United States each year, but they're not closing stuff down. They're not locking down cities. They're not, government law enforcement officials aren't going through with their loudspeakers saying, oh my God, the influenza virus outbreak, 20,000 people died this year. Get off the streets. You're jeopardizing public health. But they are doing that for the coronavirus, who up to now is, how many is it in the United States now? Let's see. United States. What is it in the United States? I think it's up to 94. I think the last I saw was up to 94. It's less than 100 people. Nowhere near 20,000 people who've already died since October 1st, 2019 of the regular influenza virus. CDC estimates that influenza has resulted in between 9 million to 45 million. Already this year, according to the CDC, it's 31 million. And these stats are from 2010. They're saying every year CDC estimates since 2010, that's 10 years of data, has resulted in between 9 and 45 million illnesses, between 140,000 to 810,000 hospitalizations, that's annually, and between 12,000 and 61,000 deaths annually since 2010. And we're sitting here instituting medical martial law because of coronavirus that hasn't even killed 100 people yet. What is amiss? What is going on? Who benefits? Follow the money. Who's going to be the victim in all this? What industries are we going to bail out under the cover of the coronavirus? Why aren't we blaming the Federal Reserve, who's solely responsible for the stock market crash and hyperinflated bubbles and inflation, the devaluing of our dollar? Look at this. This is the thing I'm going to read from Fauci. This is from, by the way, this is from Live Science. Let me see if you can see this. This is from Live Science. How does the new coronavirus, here it is, Live Science right there. How does the coronavirus compare with the flu? Just check this out. Check this hypocrisy out. I'm gonna center this for you. Enlarge the text so you can read it along with me. Sorry, I know I'm slow on that. The new coronavirus outbreak, this was written on March 6th, so this is what, 11 days old? Has made headlines in recent weeks, but there's another viral epidemic hitting countries around the world, flu season. But how do these viruses compare, and which one is really more worrisome? So far, the new coronavirus has led to more than 100,000 illnesses and more than 3,000 deaths worldwide. So now it's up to, what's it up to now? 7,519 deaths worldwide. I keep moving this out of the way, so. All right. But that's nothing compared with the flu, also called influenza. In the U.S. alone, the flu has caused an estimated 34 million illnesses. This is 350,000 hospitalizations and 20,000 deaths this season, according to the Centers for Disease Control. And that's March 6th, guys. They're admitting, the CDC is admitting 20,000 people died from the influenza virus. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm reading from their own documents. That said, scientists have studied seasonal flu for decades. So despite the danger of it, we know a lot about flu viruses and what to expect each season. Oh, like just because you know what to expect. So wait a second, you're telling us that you expect deaths to happen, but you're not going to shut things down to try to save lives like you're doing with the coronavirus? It's hypocritical. In contrast, very little is known about the new coronavirus and the disease it causes, dubbed COVID-19 because it's so new. Well, if you don't know about it, why are you taking this economic chance, this economic risk, and shutting everything down? Do you realize the government will kill more people shutting down the economy than any coronavirus or any virus ever could, ever? The government still is the number one, first place by far of killing more people in the last century alone than any pandemic, any epidemic, any natural disaster combined. And that's excluding wars, to the tune of 250 million people in the last century alone. Despite the, let's see, can you see that? Yeah. Despite the morbidity and mortality rate, this is Dr. Anthony Fauci, who you always see standing behind Trump in every one of these conferences. Despite the morbidity and mortality with influenza, there's a certainty of seasonal flu. He says, I can tell you all guaranteed that as we get into March and April, the flu cases are going down. You could predict pretty accurately what the range of the mortality is and the hospitalizations. The issue now with COVID-19 is that there's a lot of unknowns. Well, we don't know about it, so we'll just go ahead and lock everything down. We don't know about it, so we'll just jeopardize all those small businesses by telling them they can't be open for at least the next 14 days. There are businesses in my town that are forced to shut their doors early, and they may have to shut their doors completely in the next 2 weeks. Schools across the country are just shutting down, which is probably a good thing because that's the 15,000-hour public indoctrination program, the government indoctrination program. You don't want them exposed to that. But there's ramifications there too, because there's a lot of poor families who have kids that are going to school. That's their only breakfast and lunch they get all day. So there's going to be a food shortage for those poor families now that can't afford to put food on the table. It's just the far-reaching ramifications. We have no idea. We're in uncharted territory, guys. So let me go back to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. Let me just focus on these poor lemmings right here who waited to the last minute to get their stuff. What do you guys think? Down Jones Muller says stuff made in China doesn't matter or doesn't last. If Corona is all BS, there's lots of liars out there. Yeah, but there's a lot of ignorant people out there too. And what happens is the government knows how to capitalize on ignorance. See, for the most part, I would say 99.9% of the time when mainstream and government says something, you basically either have to just take their word for it or disbelieve it or just kind of wait and see. Because you never know conclusively unless you see it with your own eyes, unless you can test it, unless you are a doctor and you have a petri dish and you can culture a coronavirus and you can see what works and what doesn't. You just have to take their word for it that it's, the RO factor of 4.08 as opposed to the flu. It's 30 times higher than the flu or 10 times more virulent and infectious as the flu. Well, I don't know that. You don't know that. We just have to be honest. We just have to take Dr. Anthony Fauci's word for it. How do we know that's true? Let me ask you guys this. Let's kind of get direct in the comment section. Are you guys seeing food shortages in stores near you? Because that's where the rubber is going to meet the road. That's when the real panic's going to set in. When average Joe American and Susie American go to the store and there's no food on the shelves, that's when panic's going to set in and they're going to realize what the hell is going on here. Why didn't I prepare? Why didn't I see this coming? Where has my head been? How have I been so deceived? So maybe call out where you're from, what state you're from, and, if there's food shortages. I'm seeing a lot of people saying yes. Shelves are thinning. Where are you guys from? No milk in California? Are other people in California experiencing no milk or milk shortages? We talked about that last night with the amazing Lucas. By the way, you guys, if you can find that, I'm gonna try to go to his channel right now so I can give you that link. I need to do a call-in show so that we can just establish an audio connection. And by the way, if you go to that amazing Lucas, let's see, I'm going to pull it up right now. Here's the link right here. I'm going to stick it in the. Okay, so I put 3 or 4 links down there. That's the podcast I did with the amazing Lucas last night. It was actually really good. We had a good time. There was a lot of good information that came across. And if you could do me a favor, and when you visit his channel, just tell him High Impact Vlog sent you. It really goes. It goes a long way in creating commonality and camaraderie and fellow YouTubers. You know, if we have large audiences, it really behooves us as Americans and really just fellow humans in the world, because there's a lot of people that watch this channel from, you know, Australia, Germany, Canada, and other places. And we just need to get together as human beings and fight for the individual rights of everybody, not just because you're American, but because you're a human being. Thanks, admins, for putting that in there. Sweden. All right, let me go to some super chats here. By the way, thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the support. Bacchus Shamil says New York City is in full lockdown. Can you, hey Bacchus Shamil, can you do some video or audio or do some reporting from the street? Bacchus Shamil does a really good job holding cops accountable in New York City there, especially in Jersey. Jay Shiza says, who else is excited for these checks in the mail? Yeah. Do you really think that the United States government is going to bail out all the mom and pop shops who go under? Do you really think they're going to cover all 2 weeks or 4 weeks or however long we end up being on nationwide lockdown? Do you think they're going to cover that? Do you think those checks are really going to appear in the mail for these people? And if they do, it's theft. They're stealing from future generations so that they can patch up a problem that they created. Like I said, shutting down the economy will cost far more lives and cost the livelihoods than the coronavirus or any virus or any epidemic or pandemic ever could. Matter of fact, adding government to any equation just makes things worse. It just exacerbates whatever evil is pervading the land. Noble Savage, thank you for that. Robo Honky says, physical silver is all gone in my area. Distributor has 2 to 4 week back order. Great podcast with Lucas. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. By the grace of God says, so how do we fight back on this? How do we gather together in unity? This is actually a good time right now to get to know your neighbors. If you don't know your neighbors right now, now's a good time to get to know your neighbors, establish a relationship, let them know that they can trust you, you trust them. It should have happened far before this. But how many people do you know that you really know your neighbors? Do you know your neighbors? I have to admit, I'm deficient in that area myself. But it's all about the small community. See what needs to happen. You're saying, well, how do we fight back on this? We need to all get together and dissolve the Federal Reserve, dissolve Washington's District of Criminals. They do nothing but get us deeper into debt and take away more of our freedoms. But it has to start with your own community. It has to start with us being able to trust each other and just walking upright and being principled people. Bam Bam Niner says, your videos have been great lately. You've really opened my eyes this year, even though I thought they were pretty open already. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That's super humbling. Sam says, no guns left for sale in the stores or online. Really? I talked to a guy, the Rob Matters. I don't know if you're Rob, if you're in the chat, let me know. But the Rob Matters through Instagram, he was telling me that he had to stand in line for hours just to get a box of ammo at, I don't know if it was Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop or somewhere in California. And he's an FFL too. JD, Governor Abbott just activated the National Guard in my state of Texas. I think I heard something about that. Babe, didn't you tell me something about National Guard in Texas today?
Yeah, Matthew was just talking about it.
Yeah, Trish was talking to me about that earlier today. Snapzilla Gorilla says, Brian, I might be starting my podcast on Sunday with a panel of statists. Would you join the panel as one of the few non-statists? I don't know, man. I'll have to check that. I'll have to see. I'll have to get back with you. Thanks, Snap. Main of Darkness says, my grandmother's pacemaker surgery was canceled after they said to her 4 days ago not to cancel at all. They are canceling non-elective surgery now. Getting a pacemaker surgery sounds like a serious issue. I'm hearing this a lot. A lot of major surgeries where it could cost people their lives if they don't get it are being foregone because of the coronavirus. Guys, this is the example of a lie will make its way halfway around the world before the truth has a time to get its pants on. This could very well be YouTube. This could very well be just an absolute lie. How many people are going to end up dying? This is another example of government involvement, government scaring people and telling them, oh, don't be afraid, government making the lemming masses panic, and then hospitals being flooded because, oh my God, I have a fever. I might have coronavirus. I got to go to the hospital and get tested. And it's just, the emergency rooms just get flooded with people. Maybe we should each take our cameras to our local emergency room and see how packed it is. We'd probably be surprised. Magazog says, shoot, I lost it. Corrupt bailout politicians bailing out all the rich continue flying on airplanes, not wearing a mask while they say close your bar without compensation. Yeah, it's utter hypocrisy. And they parade before the cameras and do this in large groups. Amazing. Walmart stocked to the hilt, yet local grocery store no delivery. Here's what I'm seeing happen. Walmart will be able to weather this storm. Big corporations, Apple, Nike, they'll be able to weather these storms. But what about the small mom and pop shops who are just on a shoestring budget and they're barely able to make it? This is the perfect opportunity for the government to step in, crash the economy. The Federal Reserve comes in with trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of magic money, buying up all these stocks. Then they own all the companies and corporations and shove mom and pop stores out. Now they have a monopoly on the entire market. And they all do it under the cover of, we're protecting you from the coronavirus, boy. It's all a bunch of BS. So thanks, Magazog. Sandra Karen, that's already read yours. Sandra Karen, thank you. Low Key says, get ready for forced vaccinations. That's another thing, guys. What if, and we've talked about this in videos in the past, what if when they develop the vaccine, they make it mandatory? And once you get the vaccine, they give you some kind of a certificate so that you can prove to others that you got your vaccine. And if you can't produce this certificate or a chip or whatever, however they're going to do it, maybe a card, maybe you get a card that you have to present to TSA before you board a flight or before you take mass transit. And they won't let you out into any public places or into a restaurant until you swipe your card and tell them you've been vaccinated. I can totally see that happening. It would be very easy for them to do. Would not put it past him. Am I saying that it is going to happen, YouTube? Not saying that, but these are all options on the table. Never turn your back on government. Why do you think George Washington said, government is not eloquence, it's not reason, it is force. And like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. All right. So this is electromechanical stuff. This is Event 21. I think you mean Event 201 to the T. Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030 is in motion. Michigan is getting low on food. Guys, if you haven't stocked up and you still have an opportunity to stock up, just do it. Maybe go later when all the lemmings aren't there. I'm not so sure. Maybe you're going to be stuck in a line right now, but at least at least you could take 6 hours and get some sort of food supply. I used to say, stock up for, maybe a month or two. Maybe you need to get ready to hunker down for a year or two. And that's not fear mongering. That's just being realistic. I can't believe how fast things are progressing just in the last couple days. Let's take a quick look at the markets. I don't even know what they're doing. I'll minimize this for you so you guys can see it. So while I'm going over the super chats, we can at least see some action in the markets, see what's going on. So what are we at? We're still at 1,000, a gain of 1,000, which looks like a head fake to me. Why is it not moving? I'm on the minute chart and it's not moving. They wouldn't halt trading. Somebody else pull up the stock market. Are we really at 21,233? Because nothing's moving right now. We're looking at the minute chart. 1 minute. Let's look at the 3-minute chart. No movement on the 1-minute chart. Am I frozen or do they halt trading? Do we still have a 5x5 in the room? Can you still hear me and see stuff? Up 1048. Are you guys showing Oh, market's closed. Oh, okay, there you go. I didn't look in the upper right-hand corner. Thanks. I totally lost track of time. That's happening a lot lately. I'm glued to the computer every day and I'm looking at different things and I completely lose track of time. And when I look up from my computer, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. Oh my gosh, I really got to go to the bathroom. So thanks, guys. Yeah, the market's been closed for quite some time now, you knucklehead. All right, thanks. Nothing like showing your humanity on live TV, on live internet. All right, let me get back to the super chats. So that was Maiden of Darkness. Oh, Maiden of Darkness, Magazog, Sandra Karen, Low Key. Get ready for forced vaccination. Event 201, Creation in Evolution. Could it be a money grab and live drill test run? Yeah, of course. Of course. That's what all psychological operations and false flags are. It's, kind of social engineering test runs. YouTube admin says COVID-19 follows human weather. Kim Iverson video. Ballbuster says, consent kills. Why are we not pushing back yet? Well, we need to push back, but we have to push back in unity. Ones and twosies or tens or hundreds or thousands ain't going to do it. We got to push back in the millions. Liberty, not democracy, says, Brian, I love your work, but it's crazy how you believe that everybody values freedom and liberty. No, obviously I don't believe that everybody values freedom and liberty because most of my channel talks about people who don't value freedom and liberty. And the thing that I did yesterday, and honestly, I'm on a journey just like everybody else is, and my eyes are constantly being open to, oh my gosh, I'm so naive. Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. My gosh, I have too much hope. I'll be the first to admit I am too naive. I do have too much hope. But when I read that thing, when it was hashtagging trending on Twitter, it was lockdown Seattle. People in Seattle calling for themselves to be locked down. You can't get much more brain flatlined than that. I don't even see how you can. That is the power of public indoctrination, fluoride toothpaste, desensitizing, fluoride in your water, desensitizing people through mass mainstream media and government nonsense, all rolled into one while they're drinking Pepsis and Cokes. Okay, remember, that's from Liberty, Not Democracy. Thanks, man. Joe Banks says, remember, real or not, this operation is very real. And so is the panic. And the panic is what's dangerous. It's not the virus that's going to kill you. It's either the government or the lemming masses who are in panic mode and they don't have any food and they're coming to your house. They're breaking your window. They're going to knock down your door. I don't see how we can sidestep riots, guys. I just don't see how. And I'm not trying to fearmonger. It's just that's human nature. When people start panicking and people start getting desperate people do desperate things. Don't turn your back on people who are desperate. Always be facing them. Always be ready. Fabuloso says, so thanks, Jay Banks. Fabuloso says, I went to two gun stores yesterday. Both were closed. This looks like a big push to ramp up the seasonal vaccine market. Yep, I agree. This time next year, people will be begging to get those shots put in their arms. And it's amazing to me that they'll do that. But you're right. Andreas says, how do you feel about doing a podcast with Zachary Hubbard? Ask Zachary Hubbard what he thinks about me. That'll answer your question. Daniel Stevens says, 3,000 strong, Brian, right now. Truth reigns. Job well done. Thanks, man. Yeah, this is the highest amount of people that I've had on a live stream. I really appreciate you guys showing up. Jay Thomas says, Brian, I love you, but this is real. My family got it and were hospitalized. My doctor just died this weekend. How old was your doctor, Jay Thomas? Just out of curiosity. And what did he die of? And how do we know that your family actually has coronavirus? What does it look like? Are they just saying that to fill a quota for Big Pharma? Because remember, when you go to a doctor's office, they're not working for you. They got their hand on the doorknob and they're working for Big Pharma. That's where their bucks come from. The medical field isn't like it used to be. Managed care has completely wrecked the medical field. I've personally talked to doctors who are saying, my medical degree is basically worthless. I don't really make that much when you add in the hours that I put into it and the paycheck that I get out of it and the student loans I got to pay for. It's not even worth it. So I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying C virus is not real. I'm saying they're hyper exploding this thing. And it's not as deadly. by their own admission, this isn't even my admission, I'm just taking what they're saying. By their own admission, it's not even close to being as virulent or as infectious or as deadly as the regular influenza virus. So real or fake on the corona front, it scarcely matters. What really matters is the real numbers, the real data. And the real data shows us that they're not locking things down for 20,000 people dying, but they are locking things down for not even 100 people dying. That's the whole point there, Jay Thomas. So, yeah, where do you live, Jay Thomas? Where's this from? And there's another one by John Connor, and I can't read it. It won't, for some reason, it won't let me look at the last. It won't let me look at the last super chat. Let me see if I can find it on this other thing. It's not letting me read that last super chat. So shout out to you, John Connor. Thanks for the super chat. I can't read your message unless somebody else, pops in there. All right, guys. That's all I had for you. This woman basically is saying 65-year-olds stay in, don't have any contact with 65-year-olds, but we applaud the free market for blocking off a time for 65-year-olds. She's actually admitted that 20,000 people died this year so far from the influenza virus, and that they're going to create a roadmap for a different level of functionality for future pandemics. This is my my website, highimpactflix.com. Before you guys leave, go to this right-hand side. It's free. I will never spam you. And the information I give you will always be relevant, always up to date, always current. And your information is safe with me. So I set up this website so that we could circumvent the social media censorship nonsense. There's a ton of censorship going on. If you have any question about that, look at my two videos ago where Sheriff David Clark, I'm not for Sheriff David Clark, but I think he has a right to say whatever he wants to say. And Twitter should not be trying to play big daddy government and say, no, Johnny, you can't read what David Clark wrote about coronavirus. He's saying basically, go out into restaurants, go out. David Clark saying this. This is not Brian from High Impact Flick saying this. He's saying, go out into restaurants, go out into bars, show the government that you're not going to submit to their tyranny. I agree with, well, I can't even say I agree with that. Okay. You know what I feel about that though. So there's my website, highimpactflix.com. If you guys, I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat before we leave here. Let me get that off of there. I really appreciate you guys. And also, there's 2,600 people in the room right now. If before you leave, you could hit that like button, it really helps this channel out a lot. Keep your heads up, guys. And remember, don't give away your freedom for anything. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and indifference to this notion is the means by which the people secure their own oppression. Please like this video, share it with everybody you know, get it out to as many people as possible, and I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored